this is the first episode and first lesson of the Cree language class, Speak Cree with me. And today we're just going to start off super basic, super simple, and we're going to focus on the standard Roman orthography alphabet. So those are letters, I'll give you a closer look at this in a second, but those are the letters that would be more familiar to English speakers versus the syllabics, which oftentimes just is very confusing to look at if you've never seen it before or not familiar with it at all. It's not anything like the English writing system. So today we're going to look at the vowels, the long vowels, and the consonants and how to pronounce them. All right. So the first thing that you're going to notice is that there are only 17 letters in this alphabet. And they include short A, long E, H, short I, long I, K, M, N, short O, long O, P, S, T, W, Y. And as you can imagine, the sounds are very specific, and they're not necessarily the sounds that when you see an A, it's not necessarily going to be pronounced the same way that you would expect an A to be pronounced, which I feel like most people are prepared when they're learning a new language, is that sometimes you have to let go of audio habits. So yeah, so we're going to look at this a little bit closer, and then we're going to go over the sounds. So this is what the alphabet looks like, and also my handwriting. So here's what the letters look like, and this is what you're going to be dealing with. And we're also going to look at how this is H consonant cluster. So that is when a vowel is followed by H and a second consonant. The C in this case just represents consonants, so it can be any consonant, not just C. W also has an impact on the way that the vowels sounds are made. So we're going to look at that near the end. So first we're going to look at the short vowels, and the short vowels are A, I, and O. The A makes an ow sound, like about, and the I makes an I sound, like fit, and the O makes actually a pretty standard English O, like occasion. So those are the first short vowels. So the long vowel sounds are A, I, O, E. And a long A sounds like the A in fa, which isn't really an English word, but if you think of do, re, mi, yeah. So it's the A in fa. The I in the long vowel sequences it sounds like the E in machine. So, yeah, so machine, E, makes an E sound. And the O actually it sounds again like an O. Sometimes to differentiate, actually, people will pronounce it instead of occasion, the O in occasion, they say occasion. So it's instead of O. People will be able to pick up whether you go with either sound. It might be a little bit rough, but most people put too much emphasis in the beginning and it kind of comes off awkward, but just practice with the sounds as you hear them. And the long E is actually like A in hey. So those are the long vowels, and they're not too different. But I find when you're pronouncing words in Cree, you're actually speaking with your tongue kind of more to the roof of your mouth. And so when you practice these sounds, try getting in the habit of doing that, and you'll get a more true to sound, more true to what it's supposed to sound like by doing that, and it makes it a little bit easier as well. So now we're going to look at the consonants, and the first consonant is C, and the C is actually pronounced like cats, makes a ts sound instead of a k sound. Next we have H, which sounds very much like an English H, but unlike the, it will never start a word, and it is often found in the middle of words, not at the beginning. So you'll never see it really. There are some few exceptions, but generally speaking, you're never going to see it in the middle or at the beginning of a word. K is like the k in skill, and it's almost like a g, g, g. You kind of g. It's a funny sound to make on its own. So don't feel awkward if when you're making these sounds you really feel like you don't get it, because you will find that the more you learn words and the more you're practicing them, you'll really get a sense for those sounds, and they'll start to come more naturally and feel a little less awkward. M as in mumps, N as in none, P. You're kind of doing the P as a P. It's a very funny sound to make, but it's almost like a cross between a P and a D. There's a lot of sounds where you're going to really have to, and this again I mentioned earlier how putting your tongue to the roof of your mouth is really going to help with some of these sounds. Like P. It's P. Yeah. When you start saying the words again, it makes more sense. S as in suits. T is like tid, tid. Say it like tid. That makes that sound. And again, yeah, it's all going to come together as you're learning these words. It feels very awkward at first, but. And then W is like w and way. Y is like the y and yes. And yeah, so those are the consonants. And the one that's going to be the hardest is actually going to be the C, because that's the one that has the most dramatically different sound. And I say it's going to be more difficult because even though the T makes a D sound, we're so divorced from the fact that it's like when we speak English, C makes a K sound, and seeing that our brains are cued to say K, and it's so it will go against a lot of habits to get into saying T instead. So that just something to keep in mind, and it's a good one to practice. And so I brought up earlier about the H consonant cluster. And that's when you have a vowel followed by an H with a second consonant. And so what's going to happen is that's going to have an impact on some of the vowels. And what actually really happens is that, so for example, AH consonant sounds like a long A, fa. IH consonant sounds like the E in B, t. And OH consonant sounds like O, like a short O. Still saying O, but it's shorter, like you've been cut off. So, so that's the H consonant C. And then next we have the W, which also has an effect on some of the letters. And again, this is not all. So for example, with the H consonant C, you just pronounce it like a long A, like fa. And it doesn't have an effect on the long A. So that would still stay the same. So AW is pronounced, again, AW is pronounced whether it's long or short, is like ow, and AW is pronounced ow. So ow and ow. So really the only one that really changes is the long consonant is no longer a fa, it's an ow, like wow. Long E is then pronounced like AO. So when you see a long EW, it's AO. And IW is pronounced U. Long I is pronounced EO. So not dissimilar to, not dissimilar to how we, with the W and long E is AO, but then the long I is EO. O is still like the O in no, and long O is then, again, it doesn't really change. It's really the ones that you have to kind of pay attention to is the long A, which is then, the long A is then pronounced like the wow. And then we have the long E, which is AO. And then we have the long I, which is EO. And those are really the only ones where the sound is changed enough that you could really hear it audibly. And then the Y, when it's following a vowel, often sounds like a short I or a long I. So these are just some of the rules. This is very basic, and we're just going over some of the really basic stuff right now. Again, if you go to the blog, you'll be able to actually see all of this written out. But if you want to, sometimes it helps to read things over, look at it, and then watch the video. And then if you want, follow along at the same time, and I find that really helps to solidify the knowledge. So that's the first lesson, and I look forward to doing another one with you guys. Thanks.